Here's a fact that should have ended the Bermuda Triangle legend decades ago, and somehow never really did. Lloyd's of London, the same insurance market that prices risk on oil tankers, war zones, and celebrity body parts for a living, charges exactly the same premium to sail through the Bermuda Triangle as anywhere else in the ocean. Not a discount, not a markup, the same rate. If you want to know whether the most feared patch of water on Earth is actually more dangerous than any other patch of water on Earth, you don't need a documentary. You need to ask the people whose entire job is calculating exactly that with real money on the line. And they've been telling you the same answer since at least the 1970s. No. So if the people who get paid to be right about ocean risk have never believed this, why did the rest of us spend 50 years convinced there was something down there? The Bermuda Triangle, as a named concept, is younger than a lot of people assume. There are older isolated stories. A British training ship called the HMS Atalanta vanished with an inexperienced crew back in 1880, almost certainly lost to a storm. But the region didn't have a name, a shape, or a reputation until the mid-20th century, and it was built almost entirely by magazine writers, not scientists. The seed event most versions of the story circle back to is Flight 19, 5 U.S. Navy Grumman Avenger torpedo bombers that took off from Fort Lauderdale on a training run on December 5, 1945. And never came back. Their flight plan was simple: east, then north, then back to base. Radio transmissions from the flight leader described confusion about direction and instrument readings before contact was lost entirely. A rescue plane sent out to search for them, a Mariner aircraft with a 13-man crew, also disappeared the same night. A tanker off the coast reported seeing an explosion. Nothing from either aircraft was ever recovered. The Navy's official investigation attributed the loss primarily to navigational error by the flight leader, compounded by worsening weather and the planes running out of fuel over open ocean, at night, over water where wreckage from a ditching would sink fast and scatter in strong currents. That's the boring, plausible version. The version that actually spread came later, and it got dramatized with each retelling. A 1962 American Legion magazine article quoted the flight leader supposedly saying things like, "Everything is wrong, strange, the ocean doesn't look as it should." A line that doesn't appear in the actual recorded Navy transcripts, and that most researchers now treat as invented for the story. The same article claimed Navy officials joked the planes might as well have flown off to Mars. That's a colorful quote. It's also not evidence of anything except that a magazine writer knew how to end a paragraph. From there, the region got its actual identity through a very specific, very traceable media lineage. In September 1950, an Associated Press writer named Edward Van Winkle Jones wrote a piece for the Miami Herald describing a string of unexplained losses in the waters off Florida. No name for the region yet, no defined shape, just a vague sense that something in that stretch of ocean swallowed ships. 2 years later, in 1952, a writer named George X. Sand published an article in Fate magazine, a publication that specialized in UFOs and the paranormal and called Sea Mystery at Our Back Door. Sand's piece was the first to actually draw the shape, a triangle connecting Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, and the first to specifically tie Flight 19 into that shape as part of a pattern. The name itself didn't exist until 1964, when writer Vincent Gaddis published The Deadly Bermuda Triangle in Argosy magazine, coining the term everyone uses today. A wave of authors followed his lead over the next decade, each adding their own layer of mystery. John Wallace Spencer's Limbo of the Lost in 1969, Richard Weiner's The Devil's Triangle in 1974, and most famously, Charles Berlitz's 1974 book, simply titled The Bermuda Triangle, which became a massive bestseller and got turned into a film a few years later. Berlitz's book is also where the story really started drifting from unexplained ocean accidents into full supernatural territory. His account linked the triangle to completely unrelated mysteries, like the Mary Celeste, a ship famously found abandoned in 1872 in a totally different part of the Atlantic, nowhere near the triangle at all. By the mid-1970s, the legend had picked up an entire mythology: sunken remnants of Atlantis, rogue magnetic fields, time distortions, alien activity. Hollywood leaned in too, with 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, even featuring Flight 19's crew as alien abductees. Here's where the quiet part of this story actually starts. In 1975, the same general era Berlitz's book was topping bestseller lists. A librarian and private pilot named Larry Kusha did something almost nobody else covering this topic had bothered to do. He went back to the primary sources: actual Navy records, actual newspaper archives, actual insurance and shipping documentation, case by case, incident by incident, and published his findings in a book called The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. What Kusha found wasn't one big smoking gun explanation. It was something more mundane and honestly more damning. Sloppy research, repeated uncritically for 20 years. Some of the Bermuda Triangle disappearances he checked had actually happened well outside the triangle's boundaries entirely. One ship widely cited as vanishing mysteriously in the region had, according to the actual historical record, sunk in the Pacific Ocean. Several vessels described in earlier books as having vanished without a trace had, it turned out, been found, with perfectly ordinary documented explanations on record the whole time, explanations the earlier authors had simply left out. Multiple incidents blamed on the triangle's mysterious pull had officially recorded causes like severe storms, hull damage, or known mechanical failure, information that was sitting in public records the entire time Gaddis, Sand, and Berlitz were writing about them as inexplicable. Kusha's own assessment of Berlitz's research became something of a famous line in triangle skeptic circles, that if Berlitz reported a boat as being red, there was a real chance it was actually some other color. Strip out the exaggerated cases, the ones located outside the triangle, and the ones with mundane explanations quietly omitted, and what's left doesn't look like a supernatural hotspot. It looks statistically ordinary, which lines up exactly with what Lloyd's of London and the U.S. Coast Guard have both stated directly and repeatedly. The Coast Guard doesn't classify the region as unusually hazardous and has found no evidence of anomalous causes behind the incidents attributed to it. Lloyd's, an institution with a direct financial incentive to correctly price genuinely dangerous shipping lanes, simply doesn't rate this one any differently than comparable stretches of ocean. None of that means nothing bad ever happens there. Ships and planes absolutely have gone missing in that stretch of water, going back over a century. It means the actual explanation is almost always something unglamorous. The region is one of the most heavily trafficked stretches of ocean and air corridor on the planet, connecting the U.S. East Coast, the Caribbean, and South America, which alone guarantees a higher raw number of incidents purely through exposure and volume. the same way a busy highway intersection reports more accidents than a rural back road without being cursed. It also sits directly under the Gulf Stream, a fast, powerful, unpredictable current capable of rapidly relocating wreckage or survivors far from where an incident actually happened, complicating searches and creating an illusion of things vanishing. The area is also known for sudden, violent tropical weather and for a specific hazard called rogue waves, along with the genuinely tricky underwater terrain of the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest points in the Atlantic. Stack ordinary storms, heavy traffic, strong currents, deep water, and decades of human navigational error on top of each other, and you get a track record that requires zero supernatural explanation to account for. There is one genuinely interesting scientific theory that's occasionally floated as a partial, non-supernatural explanation for some historical losses, something called methane clathrates, essentially pockets of methane gas trapped in ice-like structures on the seafloor. Under certain conditions, these can destabilize and release large bubbles of gas. Some researchers have proposed that a sudden large release could theoretically reduce water density enough to sink a vessel rapidly, or potentially even interfere with aircraft engines if a plume reached the surface. It's a real published hypothesis, taken seriously enough to be studied, and it's also explicitly presented by the scientists behind it as a possible occasional contributing factor in a small number of historical cases, not as a unifying supernatural mechanism explaining the whole legend. It's one more mundane physics-based possibility sitting quietly next to the others. So why did the myth outlive its own debunking by 50 years? Partly because Kush's book, thorough as it was, never got anywhere near the cultural reach of Berlitz's bestseller or the movies that followed it. A meticulous fact-check of shipping records simply isn't as fun as an unsolved mystery with Atlantis in it. Partly because the ocean is dangerous and busy and people occasionally make mistakes in bad weather is a deeply unsatisfying answer compared to the version with vanishing planes and secret dimensions. And partly because structurally, mystery is just better content than resolution. A solved case doesn't generate a sequel, a new documentary, or a fresh round of think pieces every few years. An eternally unsolved one does. That's really the honest version of how this story ends. Or rather, doesn't end, at least not publicly. Among researchers, statisticians, insurers, and the Coast Guard, the Bermuda Triangle stopped being a live mystery decades ago. It didn't go out with a dramatic final debunking headline. It went out quietly, quite literally, in an insurance ledger that never once charged a higher rate, while in bookstores, movie theaters, and now on YouTube, the far more entertaining version of the story never got the memo, and frankly, still hasn't.